Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Canadians with Disabilities and the Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host, and the show is also known as PWD Allies Podcast. As usual, check it out on your favorite app, wherever you find it best suited for you. There's a lot of variety of apps out there, so take your pick and you'll find the podcast and listen to it on your own leisure time. And well, today, we're going to be talking about an exciting new petition, Neil, that you and I launched. It's a e-petition, and it was sent out to the House of Commons in Ottawa, and it's e-5047.
Yeah.
So people that are maybe not familiar with petitions, this is a petition that, when we had COVID, during the COVID time era, there was there was CERB, right? And everyone got CERB right away. It was pretty quick out the door. And people with disabilities in Canada, they didn't get anything. They get maybe a one-time shot, $600 for those who would qualify for DTC. Majority of PWD did not get that. So since then, it was a promised Canada disability benefit that was promised. And as we know, going forward, we're still waiting for that promise, disability benefit. And people are suffering in Canada. Cost of living skyrocket. I mean, every cost is so high. Rents are high, market rents, you name it. Doesn't matter where you turn, the costs are high. And so you and I talked about this, many times over different podcasts in the past about inequalities and basically people suffering in legislated poverty on the backs of the provincial and the federal government said, well, don't worry, we're going to take care of our citizens. Well, we're still waiting, and so that's why we decided to come out with a e-petition, and it's called DERB, and that's what it is. It's a Disability Emergency Response Benefit, and that disability emergency response benefit is to help people in the meantime while the federal government can figure out their left foot from the right foot and make sure the laces are actually tied up properly and get this benefit out to people, no less than what the PBO had even stated was minimum $1,000.
Yeah.
And so the federal government said, well, here's up to $200, maybe for some DTC recipients, if they can even get that.
Yeah, but let me stop you there, Brandon, because let's talk about the origins of DERB. I mean, that's kind of the exciting part. Way back when in the early days of Twitter Spaces,
right?
When Twitter Spaces were a thing,
yep.
That's something that you wanted to do, and that was kind of what was that near the end of 2021. You reached out to me right near the end of 2021. I think it was like December-ish, or it might have been like late November.
Late November, December, yeah,
2021, and you said, Neil, there's this new thing that's called Twitter Spaces. I think I really want to do a show on Twitter Spaces because people with disabilities are getting left behind. And you did do Twitter Spaces. It was successful for about a year, and then we had to jump ship and move over to YouTube. I think a lot of our subscribers, of course, know you from YouTube here on this channel, and they know nothing about your Twitter Spaces. But one thing that we can say about Twitter Spaces is that it actually was the birth or the origins of DERB.
It was, and that's where DERB actually was born, in the Twitter space for Canadians with disabilities and their allies, and that's where the show originated from. And from there, it's blossomed to where it is now. It has really grown, and now we basically took the DERB along with us on social media. DERB was trending for many days. It was trending, and it's now starting to show signs of it trending again. We're giving it a little boost. Show a big boost. Actually, now let me rephrase that. We're giving it a big boost, not a low boost. And to get this petition out, there's been different petitions over time with DERB. But this one is quite powerful because the way the wording has been put in place. And not saying that the other versions weren't powerful too, but this one's really powerful because the need for emergency response benefit has been ignored by our federal government, and a lot of members of parliament basically had pushed for the disability emergency response benefit, and unfortunately, the political parties said, no, this is not important because it didn't affect their lives. It affects our lives, but it doesn't affect their lives because they're well taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, people's lives, they don't get put on hold. And so I'm really excited about getting this petition going. The signatures are slowly getting up there. From where a couple of days ago when it was launched, it's already at, last time I looked,
around 50 or so.
Around
50.
Yeah. So the signature there.
Yeah, and then again, talking about origin, we talked about the origins of DERB. That DERB was born. DERB was basically born in your Twitter Spaces. So let's talk about the origins of Spider-Man. I'm wearing my Spider-Man shirt.
Yeah, I see that.
As a kid, I was a huge fan of the old. I think the original TV series of Spider-Man. A lot of people might not know this. The original TV series of Spider-Man, the cartoon, was actually what do you want to call it? Produced in Canada. The voice of Spider-Man was actually a Canadian actor in Toronto. I forget his name. You can look it up, but it was from I think it was 1966. Was the original Spider-Man cartoon series, and I would watch it. Like every Saturday. I love that,
One of my favorites.
Yeah, and there's a reason why we're mentioning Spider-Man about origins. I wanted to bring up the actual text of our petition and read through it, and people will understand why I'm wearing my Spider-Man shirt. So again, this is a petition that you and we put our heads together and came up with this. So it says petition to the House of Commons, and there's whereas statements. So that's how these petitions are set up. They have point forms where they have whereas statements, and mine has and yours and mine has 7 here listed. So the first one is persons with disabilities, PWD, often pay out of pocket for medications, massage treatments, mobility aids, or specialized diets. Inflation has made things even more difficult. So that's the first one. Rent prices and rent evictions are on the rise, and persons with disabilities are especially vulnerable. Provincial housing stock set aside for PWDs is either woefully inadequate or non-existent. On average, only 10 to 12% of PWDs have access to provincial housing or other rent subsidies. And those first two things you talk about a lot. You post on media about the cost of living. It's huge, and there's just not enough. There's not enough housing. It's a big thing. The third point here is provincial disability benefits across the country remain stuck at 50% below the poverty line, forcing persons with disabilities to seek mutual aid and charity. And again, you post about all this a lot on Twitter. The fourth point, persons with disabilities are paying anywhere from 50 to 95% of their monthly provincial benefits on housing. This far exceeds the 30% limit of rent geared to income. Again, another huge thing that we always talk about on the podcast. So this whole petition so far, it's basically highlighting the key points of what you've said from day one on the podcast, even going back to the Twitter Space days, right?
That's right.
And then so now we're on point 5. Paying for necessities has become a daily struggle for PWDs, and utilities like TV, internet, and cell phone have become unaffordable luxury items. Point number 6. People with disabilities are facing risk to life or end-of-life options of MAID and suicide. And that's a big one for me. I don't like the fact that MAID has become too easy for people now. And here's the number 7 point, and this is where the Spider-Man comes in.
Yeah.
I added this one, but it's important because it says Spider-Man's Uncle Ben said it best: "With great power comes great responsibility." I'll say it again. Spider-Man's Uncle Ben said it best: "With great power comes great responsibility." The disability community across Canada is asking each MP, both individually and collectively, to wield their government powers responsibly to ensure that the right to a dignified disabled life becomes reality. You always talk about, living with dignity, Brent. Like
Yes.
people with disabilities should have a dignified life, and that's
It should.
important.
It's very, very important.
And so those are the whereas statements, and then the petition ends with there is the "we the undersigned disabled citizens of Canada call upon the government of Canada to." So these are basically three, I don't want to call them like mission or impact statements that we want the government to do, the federal government to do. So it's number one: consider the implementation of a temporary top-up benefit, a disability emergency response benefit, or DERB, to be immediately provided to help all those currently eligible for any disability benefit program until the Canada Disability Benefit is distributed. And two, consider DERB to fill the gaps and make a difference in the many lives desperately needing support now. And three, and this is where the House of Commons clerk, he actually repeated. He actually added this. I didn't add this in the original. It was added again for emphasis. Three says, "Wield government powers responsibly to ensure that the right to a dignified disabled life becomes reality." So again, it's kind of echoes of Spider-Man again, right? The
Mhm.
wielding powers responsibly, like with great power comes great responsibility. And and again, that's kind of that's my kind of injection of you know um I I I don't know if we want to call it that. I like I'm an idealist. That's the word I was looking for. I'm an idealist, and I like the idea that good can triumph over evil, and this idea that a comic can, and can and I mean, of course, the comic probably borrowed from the Bible in a sense too. I mean, there's lots of Bible verses talking about, with great power comes great responsibility. There's tons of Bible verses too. So I mean, you can say maybe that Stan Lee borrowed from a maybe Bible verse. But it's true. I mean, it's so true. Like those with great power do have
Mhm.
great responsibility, and that doesn't get said enough. That doesn't get said enough. And
There's,
I thought
there's
I
a
thought it was important.
there's a part in the petition that really stands out too, and it said everyone.
Everyone. Yeah, I missed that word, because
Yeah,
actually that was actually kind of a mistake too, that or I thought it was a mistake. It was an added word, but if you want to, I can go back and read it. It's point number two, where the clerk added one word, "everyone," that wasn't in my original text. It says, consider DERB to fill the gaps and make a difference in the many lives uh, desperately needing support now." And then he added the word "everyone," so it's support now everyone, and wield
that's very,
government
very
powers
important.
responsibly.
I thought that was really really nice of the clerk to add that word, that very important word in, because
Yeah,
that's more inclusive, right? And
yeah.
the reason why we got we're pushing for the disability emergency response benefit is the finance minister had said, well, we can't do everything. We can't get DERB out, a emergency response benefit. we can't do two things at the same time. We can't get the Canada Disability Benefit going. Otherwise, if we get DERB going, it's going to delay it. Well, the Canada Disability Benefit is being delayed. So there's no reason why not to better people's lives by giving people a dignified amount to get by on with our high cost of living. I mean, inflation is skyrocket, and even the Bank of Canada, I mean, is watching the interest rates of an interest rate cut because basically inflation rates are really going up, and they didn't anticipate that the inflation rates are going up. So that basically means our cost of living is now going up. Now, in the province of British Columbia, this year we had a $0 increase, Neil, in our disability rate. And meanwhile, inflation, cost of living is skyrocketing right up, but there was nothing in it. I believe Ontario is getting a $58 increase this July 1st. Is tied to inflation. Now, $58, that's not going to do much at all. I mean, sure, it will help a tiny bit, but with the cost of groceries and stuff, you really you can't buy too much with it. But I look at BC just lately with our cost of living. They're saying that it's the highest in Canada, and we got nothing in the budget, and it's an election year, and I mean, and this is nothing. Using this as a stepping point to attack our government, but to do the right thing in even if it wasn't an election year, I mean, cost of living doesn't just stop; it doesn't go down. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, what you could buy for a small amount, you could get more quantity. Now that buying power has eroded away. You can't even get one item, one of the three items. I used to tell this story all the time, and over podcasts. When I was a kid, I could buy, and I basically once a month, if that, maybe every 2 months, I would go and treat myself doing a paper route. I'd buy a chocolate, like a small chocolate bar, a small bag of chips. They're like 35-gram size little bag of chips, and a small bottle pop. Sometimes root beer. Root beer was my favorite. Sometimes Orange Crush, but usually root beer. 3 items comes to $1.05, and there was no tax back then. It was just the deposit. You can't even get one of those items at a grocery store now for that price. So when I say the buying power has eroded away, rent increase, high market rents. I mean, landlords give a rent increase every year because the majority of PWD. Let's be honest, people that are listening to this right now. I mean, tell me. I mean, the cost of living hasn't gone down. I mean, landlords, they get the rent increase every year automatically. They apply for it, they get it. This year in BC, a 3.5% rate increase, and that's for people paying market rent. Now, majority of PWD do not live in subsidized housing, and great. That's great on the government to get other contractors to build housing. I echo that. Yeah, I mean, let's build housing. Let's replenish stock. I mean, some older stock needs to be taken away. New stock needs to be put in. But let's work with the PWD that are living in market housing. Let's make sure they have enough money that they can pay their market rent. Let's them live in dignity where they want to live. If they want to live in subsidized housing, they apply for subsidized housing if they meet the guidelines and the criteria, the policy in subsidized housing, because there's a lot of policies that are in place for PWD to basically live in subsidized housing. You have to be a single PWD. You can be, if you have a relationship, yes, you can live in there. If you are married, you can live in there. If you are a family with children, you can live in there. Single mothers, single fathers, whatever the case may be. But if you are friends or roommates, you cannot live in subsidized housing together. No, that is a guideline. That's a policy. So right there, that's the discrimination for PWD, because a lot of PWD, as we know, I mean, they're paying high market rent, and they say, I just want cheaper housing. So government, how do we work with PWD that are in market housing? Do we not give a rate increase 1 year, skip a year? That's not going to work. My landlord gave me a rent increase, and I said, well, I didn't get an increase by the government. Why not? And that was the question. Why not? And that's the question I asked the government is, why not?
Mhm.
I mean, it's so anyway,
Well,
that's why DERB is so important. We need to get
yeah,
it out.
I was gonna say like the reason why we're turning our attention to the provincial governments now is
Mhm.
because the federal government, for all intents and purposes, has basically punted the ball and said, we don't want the ball right now. You know, we don't even want to play the game now. Get another team on the field and you and somebody else can play the game. We don't even want to play. That's what it feels like. I mean, for 4 years they said, they talked about inviting people with disabilities to the table,
Yep.
and there was a crap load of we always say that there was a crap load of disability advocates and a lot of really, really solid advice from advocates saying, you
Mhm.
know, at least have poverty level and don't have the DTC and don't have clawbacks and on and
Exactly.
on and on and on it went and don't make it stop at 65 and I mean we can go on and on
Yeah. But
but
when
but
what
the
we do,
yeah, but the idea that this whole thing was promised of like poverty level support, and then it's basically like the government says, "Oh, here's $200." That's the
exactly.
equivalent. That's the equivalent of them saying, "Well, let's punt the ball and
Hmm.
let's go off the field and let's maybe some other team will play with you guys because we don't want to play with the disabled anymore."
Well, that's
That's
exactly
kind of what it feels like, right?
yeah, well, that's exactly what she answered my questions. Like, what did they do? Exactly what they did was they did the opposite, complete opposite.
Hmm.
They had they had people on their committee. They had some of our guests that we had on just recently explained exactly that they give high recommendations of what it should be,
Yeah.
and basically it was like egg in the face right back at them, like it was a gut punch. And that's exactly how our guests were describing it, as a gut punch.
Yeah,
To
it
them, it
was.
was an insult. It was an assault of saying, yeah, thanks for the expertise, but you know what? We're going to do it our way because they're just disabled people in Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, in other words, don't become disabled. I'm sorry, that's no control over our lives. I mean,
Mhm.
as if we have control over our lives. I mean, that's like saying to a politician, yeah, don't become elected and don't oversee what's best for disabled people in Canada. Because well, if we're elected officials, yeah, maybe we better not to make what's best for Canadians. I mean, really, like you're elected officials, you need to be listening to what the expertise have to say. You need to listen to lived experience stories. You need to listen to people that are on the at the table telling you what we want, right? Not with what you feel is best for us. If
With
it's
great
just
with great power comes great
yes,
responsibility. That's
exactly.
that's what the government needs to really get into their brains. Yeah.
That's exactly it. Because whoever's telling you not to do it backwards. Um, here's one. I would love the person to come on. Let's do an invite. Ask them to come on to the show and tell us why did you do it? Why did you do it backwards?
Yeah.
So this is an invite to the people that say, hey, we're going to do it backwards. So I'm going to invite you to come onto the show, reach out to myself or Neil, and we'll get you scheduled in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can maybe tell
Te-
your story, the reasons why.
tell us why you punted the ball
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you've left us on the field alone with nobody to play with.
Yeah, because the provincial governments, I can tell you right now, federal government, provincial governments are wondering the same thing. Why?
Mhm.
Because they were waiting on the Canada Disability Benefit to make sure it was done right. All these meetings, consultations, where? Because the provincial governments have been waiting for this to happen. And that's why they didn't raise the rates, because they were
Yeah.
waiting on you guys to do the right thing. Now, let's go back memory lane here, people. Back in 2015, when the federal government got into power, they said we're going to eliminate poverty. So then, when COVID came, fast forward, well, guess what? A promise that never came through. 4 years dragging their heels. People's lives don't get put on hold. Poverty doesn't stop. It just escalates. When you don't eliminate poverty, it just gets worse. If you keep throwing water on a problem that you created, and let's just admit, I mean, government's created poverty over time. I mean, if it's provincial, federal, I mean, it can be eliminated very easily. I mean, we have different, people come on their show, talk about basic income, different versions of basic income. Is that what we should be doing right now? I think so. I really do. I really strongly think that's what the answer is. Can we get it done? Of course we can get it done. I'm answering my own questions here. I mean, but it's not rocket science. You put all these services together, but in the meantime, let's get the promise met that you promised for 4 years, right? Let's get it done. But instead, you decide to go on summer vacation from Parliament and provincial. There, a lot of them are actually away now too, but they're still working in their constituent offices. And I think the MP who actually signed off on our 5047 petition, because they're taking it seriously. They're taking it very seriously. They want to see that this petition is going to get read, which I really hope it does get read, and I really hope it gets implemented in, not just tossed aside saying, yeah, it doesn't affect our lives. I mean, it's just a petition. These are people's lives, folks.
We need 500 signatures, we should say, too. Minimum.
Minimum.
So this is why we're doing a whole podcast just devoted to this, because we really want to push it out there. And we always say that you always say it, I always say it, like, we say like, share, subscribe. In this case, it's like, share, and sign.
Yeah. And promote it out. Yeah.
Promote it out. Yeah.
So your own network.
Promote it out on your own networks, on your own social networks, to really, like, share, and like we said, sign. And, if you want to keep up to date on everything, subscribe to the channel is another good thing to do, of course. But we really want to push it out there because, people like, Mike Morris, for example, whenever he comes on the show, one of the things he always says, that our political system isn't, he says there's some flaws with our political system, but he says, you have to work with the system we have. And one of the ways that we can work within the system we have is to put forward e-petitions, because that is one way where regular Joe Blows like you and me, Brent, can get our voices in front of the politicians in Ottawa. And they're basically forced to debate this in the House. They have, once this gets certified at 500 signatures or more, it gets certified. They have to bring it in front of the House and talk about it and debate it. It has to get talked about. So I mean, that's one of the key leverages that our system has. And if that's what it has, like, why not use it? Why not exploit it to the best of our abilities, right?
Absolutely. So let's set a goal for everyone. Let's get it up to 1,000 signatures by the end of July. So the month of July, let's pump this petition out. Let's get up to there, and then month of August, let's double it. Let's double. So here's a challenge for you. So month of July, let's get up to 1,000. And keep an eye on the numbers, folks. Let's make a competition to see if we can get it up to 3,000 by the end of August.
Who can push it out the most?
Yeah,
we'll send out Timbits to everybody.
If we can get it up to 5,000 signatures by the end of September, then we'll give out a prize. We'll give it out a prize. If whoever can get it to that 5,000, we'll give it a prize to the person who actually and we will find out who actually will push it to that line.
We have to do it. We have to come up with some sort of contest.
Yeah. Well, we'll find some kind of contest here. Yes.
Yeah.
And so here's an invitation to any member of Parliament. You want to come on to the show? Definitely, and give your viewpoint regarding DERB and the Canada Disability Benefit. Reach out to us. I'd love to get you on. If you are one of the leaders, if you are Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the block party. I can never pronounce your name, so I probably will fumble it up. Neil, do you know how to say? Probably not
I
either.
don't know.
Can't either. But
No.
you know who you are. I don't want to just say your name wrong. You're all invited to come onto the podcast. Any MP, MLA, MPP, reach out to us. Love to hear your viewpoints. What are you? I want to know what your plans are to eliminate poverty in Canada.
Yeah.
So here's a challenge. What are your plans? I don't want to say, well, if I get elected, this is what I'm going to do. I want to know guaranteed what you will do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we work together. That's this is not even a challenge. This is a question for you. Is what will you do? Right.
Yeah.
Because any person in Canada, let's just face it, as we get older, we get more disabilities. They're either hidden disabilities, physical disabilities. There's a whole variety of disabilities, and I couldn't even basically go through every single one. No fault of people. That's just the way life is. But we need to recognize it as citizens of Canada. We need and around the world. I mean, anyone around the world watching this too. I mean, I invite you to come on to the show too. Like I mentioned about political leaders and and that's a lot of our guests that come on. But I also want a lot of people who have lived experience, stories that enjoy watching our content every week. We have a variety of other shows that we have on. Sometimes we have panelists on, we have guests come on, MPs on. If you like the Breaking with Brent segments, coffee time. I haven't done a lot of coffee time. I'm going to be doing some of that over the summer. I'm going to be spending a little bit of time over the summertime also and doing some coffee time, just enjoying the nature. So stay tuned on that one.
Sorry again. I was just going to interrupt you again. Like we talked about the petition being a vehicle of getting our voices heard. Well, really, this whole podcast has become a vehicle too, and that's kind of why I want to pump up the subscribers if we can a little bit too, because the more subscribers we have, the more it gets pumped out, right?
Yep.
And I just think that's great if we can do that. I mean, what's encouraging to me is like we're at about, I don't know what it is now, 565 subscribers, which is amazing. But what's even more amazing is based just on that low subscribe count, our watch hours are really, really high considering the relatively low subscribe count, right? The amount of people watching and the actual hours that our people are putting into the show and watching it is really good. And one other thing I was going to say too, just as a housekeeping thing, Google has decided to kind of, I think they've migrated their Google Podcasts are migrating everything over to YouTube Music now. So as a result of that, they're actually inviting people like myself that have a podcast, like the PWD Allies podcast. They're saying you resubmit the what is it called, the RRS feed or something, or is it RSS feed? And RSS. So they said resubmit that feed, so I did, and then they said we'll push it out to the YouTube Music instead. So now what people are going to see when they look on not quite yet because it's not fully published yet, the files are still downloading, but what people are going to see if they go on the YouTube channel and look on the podcast page or the tab, you're gonna see the year one, the 2023 year one, and then year two of this year. And then you're gonna see a third one now. It's gonna say PWD Allies audio only, and it's gonna have all of the shows. So it's gonna have, what are we up? We're at, I think, 126. This will be 127 today, I think. But we're at 126 published published podcasts. So that number, it's going to be 126, and it's audio only. So so now if you want to just listen to audio only direct from YouTube, you can actually do that. So there's actually a third option for the year
Oh,
one, 2023, year two, which is this year, or just go and listen to only the audio. If you don't want to look at my pretty face or Brent's pretty face, you can just listen to the audio instead. So
that's awesome. That's
yeah.
it's really it's impressive how they've streamlined it that way. That's
Hmm.
really user friendly for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and like I always say on a lot of the podcasts, uh, disabilities will affect you in one way or another. It'll affect your family members, your doctors, nurses, caregivers, your grandparents. There's children. I mean, you name it. Anyone around you in your life, your friends around you, they can have disabilities. I mean, as it's part of life. It's just how life goes on, and basically that's why allies come in. That's where the disabilities and their allies,
Yeah.
meaning family members, extension off of the individual. And that's why we all come together, we group together, and we come with ideas, lived experience stories. It's not always about solution based, right? I mean, there's a lot of great ideas. I'd love to have a solution to eliminate poverty altogether. And some people have come to me and said, okay, so if government actually eliminated poverty, Brent, would your show still go on? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, the
Oh
show
yeah.
would still go on. Why? Because I want to hear about people's lived experience. Like, what did they go through? And it's about building that community base together, and having a common ground of an area where people can come and talk about, what do they go through? Maybe they want to talk about their travel experience, like I do. I posted our travel segment, and I loved it. I love doing
Yeah.
that segment, and I want to thank you, Neil, for doing the all the footage, keeping up with the footage as I was submitting it on. We were
Yeah.
about a day and a half behind, but people were following along. They said,
Yeah.
"This is great." And why do I know it? Because there was people on our journey while we were traveling, and they were watching the footage. They said, "Yeah." I said, "We were recording it. I was giving to you," and they're like, "Yeah." So I'm
Yeah.
watching the footage. Yeah, because that was the beginning of our journey, and
Yeah.
we were still on the one train, and they were watching it from when we left Vancouver. And I
Yeah.
said,
That's
"Oh
cool.
wow, yeah."
That's
So
cool. Yeah.
that was the neat part, is that people were following it along. And then I got an email from a couple of them, said, "Yeah, so okay, so you did make it down from Toronto down," and I said, "Yeah." So they were following along, and I thought that was so neat. I enjoy doing the different segments. If it's a breaking with Brent, we just had a breaking with Brent segment just the other day, right in my neighborhood. There was some kind of a emergency response situation. I never really did get to the bottom of what happened. Nobody would talk about it, and that's fine. It was all under control. They said nobody in the community was put at risk. It was actually contained. I think there was more to the story than that, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like those are kind of things that stand out. That's why I do the breaking with Brent segments, because things that stand out all of a sudden, if it's a travel segment, if it's coffee time, you name it. Basically,
If it's pink unicorns.
then I got one right behind me, and in government's eyes, they're doing well. They're running amok around the country and around the world. And
The pink unicorns are well looked after, Brent.
they are.
They're well looked after.
Unfortunately, persons with disabilities aren't, and
Yeah.
that's the reality in Canada. And how do we change that? Easily, for government to actually do the right thing, change the policy, folks. It's really what it stems down to. It's policy based, deliberately designed policies that will keep people in legislative poverty. I mean, we've gone to meetings many times, but state of the art computer systems coming next year that's apparently supposed to give out huge payouts. Do I believe it? Do I believe it? Do you believe that
Show me the money.
a big computer system's going to handle it? I don't think so. I don't know. There's something tells me that that's just yeah, a computer system.
I hope there's a glitch and they add a zero to everybody's. Everybody's
Well, I
chef.
used to build computers when I was a kid, and it could handle a lot of usage. So I didn't need a state-of-the-art computer system to do that. Maybe theirs must be a super duper one. I don't know, but I still think it can handle the current one can handle payouts.
Yeah.
So I think so. I think it's just an excuse, not the reason not to do something. It's more to do. That word more to do. Let's just do. Let's be proactive. Like when I was a little kid, my mom used to I say, well, I can't go mow the lawn. My allergies are really bad. Well, Brent, just do the best you can. Just get out there and try. Try. And it's
Yeah.
being proactive rather than saying I can't do. Just be proactive. Or be a paper route. Is it be a bad snowstorm? I went out and did it. I went and pushed myself to go and do it. I pushed myself,
Yeah.
pushed. So it's being proactive to go and do. I could have said, you know what, I'm gonna go and get a neighbor to go and do it. No,
And
because
that's a
yeah,
really good segue to end off of, Brent,
yes,
actually, because there's that saying, just do it.
yes,
And there was that saying that was trending on Twitter for quite a while about just derb it.
yes,
Just derb it.
yeah,
That's actually, if you look at the thumbnail for today's show, people can look at the thumbnail and they'll see a big picture of Spider-Man, a
yep,
big picture of Spider-Man with the petition number. So the Spider-Man's on there, and it says below, it says just derb it.
yep.
So that's what we want people to do is like, share, subscribe, and sign, and just push it out there.
Yeah.
And yeah,
If you ever, if anyone wonders why we came up with the word, let's disturb it, it actually stemmed from the from a movie. It was called From Starsky and Hutch, where there was a line in there when there was a who was the actor that the one who
yeah,
said
yeah. I forget the names
yeah.
now, but
Anyway, he
yeah,
said, just do it, do it,
yeah,
do it now,
yeah,
do it. And that's why we
yeah.
said Durbit, just Durbit, Durbit
Disturb it.
now,
Yeah.
meaning now. Like be proactive. Let's just get it done rather than
Hmm.
more to do. That the old lines of that there's more to do. We hear you. There's more to
Yeah.
do. When the fiscal situation allows. To me, and I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people will actually echo this. That's just excuses. That's saying I don't
Hmm.
want to deal with it now. It's somebody else's problem. Yeah,
Well,
this is
yeah,
jammed down the throat.
and you always use the metaphor of or imagery, or whatever you call it, of kicking the can down the road, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what they do. And that's I made the imagery earlier of
Mhm.
it's the federal government basically invited all of these disability advocates to the table and said, we want to hear from you. And
Yeah.
then they punted the ball away and said, basically, here's $200. We don't want to play with you anymore, and walked off the field. And that's basically, and that's not good enough.
No.
With great power comes great responsibility. Like,
Basically,
use your power, responsibly, and do it, just like you said, just do it. You
just
know,
do it.
just do
And,
it. Yeah.
Neil, a lot of the disability advocacy groups across Canada, I think they were just stunned in dismay of the government just completely doing a 360 is what they did. When we had our two guests on, Michael Prince and Neil Belanger,
Yeah.
uh, and they talked about that in depth, and they both resigned. They both
Yeah.
stepped down because the government, what they did. Man, if I could have been a fly on the wall, I can just imagine them scratching, going, "Let me out of here! Let me out!"
Yeah.
Uh,
No,
and it's just excuses. I just
not
understand.
good. Not good enough, right? Not good enough.
No,
Yeah.
no, and in people's lives, like I say, so many times, they just want to have a dignified life. They want to have respect, and from our governments. And when the governments are not respecting people, we got a problem. Like we got a problem. Why should it? Some have not.
Mhm.
Have and have nots. So let's just derb it and get it done. Let's get this petition 5047. That's what the petition number is. So let's get the challenge going for the month of July. Let's get up to 1,000. The target goal by the end of August, I want to see it up to 3,000 minimum. By the end
Yeah.
of September, let's get up to 5,000.
Yeah. No, I would love that too. Yeah.
I would too. I would too. And there'll be some kind of giveaway. I'm not going to say what yet, but we're gonna do something. There's some exciting stuff that we're going to be announcing in the near future.
I'm gonna ask Michael Bublé to give
Yep.
everyone free concert tickets.
Yeah. Yeah. There we are. There we are.
There you go. So Michael Bublé, if you're listening,
Yeah.
no big deal. Just give everyone free concert tickets.
Yeah. Free concert tickets. Yeah. At the minimum. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
There's going to be an exciting announcement. I don't know exactly when, but we're working on something. For something for the PWD allies. Neil's probably like, "What? We didn't talk about this. What's he talking about?" There's something that Sonia and myself were talking about this for the show, as promotions for the channel. So if you're really intrigued, subscribe to the channel, and you'll stay up to date.
If it's a t-shirt with your face on it, I'm all for it, Brent. Bring it on.
Hell, you just grabbed the cat out of the bag there, Neil. He must have been Sonia. He must have been reading my mind. He must have been reading my mind. Yeah. So if you love the show, subscribe, keep up to date, and you're gonna find out when that's gonna happen. And we're gonna be selling them. They're gonna be for sale. And yeah, so you tell us what size you want: small, medium, large, extra large, extra large, whatever your size is. We can have them custom made. And there's a bonus. You see, every time people watch my show, they're like, "What is he drinking inside this mug?" It's coffee. Actually, just to let you know, I brew the coffee at home, and so guess what we're going to have on these mugs? Not this logo here. It's going to have PWD Allies podcast on it.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So if you want to have one of those mugs at home, and while you're watching our podcast or listening, well, if you're listening, you can actually just drink it on the side. I won't even see you drinking it, but if you're watching it, yeah, great. That'd be an extra bonus. So yeah, those are in the very near future. We're going to be working on that. So I just want to let people know that that's what's going to be happening there. A few other exciting extra features that'll be added on too coming up. So stay up to date and subscribe if you like our content, and you'll stay up to date on our announcements. If you like the Breaking with Brent, Coffee Time, travel segment, you name it, stay tuned on those. And over the summer, I will be doing some of those segments. I will also be taking a little bit of a break in the month of August, just so that Neil has some time for family time also. He's probably like, "Yay!"
I go through withdrawal when I'm not with you, Brent.
Yeah, but there will be some Breaking with Brent segments and Coffee Time and stuff. So they'll still be submitted out there. And I'm going to do some visiting, going over to visit Neil too, and definitely just enjoying a little bit of that month. So good. Definitely, yeah, if you want to reach out in the month of July, we'll get you scheduled in. Definitely, we'll fit you into the calendar accordingly, based on your availability and around Neil's schedule, my schedule. We'll make it work.
Yeah.
Until then, everyone, sign the petition e-5047. Let's get the challenge. Let's get those numbers pumped up.
Yeah, let's do a proper 1 minute blurb for it. So state the petition number again, and we'll do the proper announcement for it again at the end here.
It's an e-petition to the House of Commons, e-petition 5047, and it's for DERB, Disability Emergency Response Benefit, to lift people up to a livable amount that they can actually buy what they need, buy the nutritional food that they need. They can buy disability-related devices that they need to help them with their disability. They can go and maybe travel around to their local communities, and they can put money back into their communities to help blossom small businesses. I mean, maybe a bus pass. You know, I mean, ones who are basically don't have a bus pass, because you have to take the bus pass or pay it to the high cost of living in BC. So that way, if they had DERB, they can just go and pay their transportation how they need it. But here's a thought just before we end the segment. How about attach a bus pass to all PWD's files in BC?
Wow.
So
what a concept. What a concept, Brent.
It's there. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. If it's there, wow. Yeah. And just give everybody keep that other subsidy amount 52. Don't claw it back. Right.
So let's finish with just DERB it.
Just DERB it.
Just DERB it.
And DERB it good.
Share it out. Share it out.
Subscribe, like,
and sign the petition.
Sign it and promote it out to your network.
Yeah.
We can all get this done because it will benefit you and everybody else around you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our segment today. And stay tuned for other further announcement. Please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to be a sponsor or you want to donate to your liking of the channel. Reach out to Neil or myself. Thank you, everyone. Take care.